emphasize it is that CSUN is a place that values a lot this interaction between faculty and students doing research together. And we have another project here with our own majors and other majors from the CSUs that we call PUMP. I am even wearing a t-shirt from that project. And this project was nationally recognized this past year by the American Mathematical Society as an excellence for excellence in achievement. So it's a award-winning project. And from this program, we have now very successful students. And then the next presenter is one of these PUMP, as our program is titled, alumnus. So I'll have another PUMP alumnus introduce. So of course, I'm proud of them, so I wanted them to emphasize the impact that our projects are having on our students. I feel very proud, so I have them now to speak. This is Giovanni Granados. He is finishing his master at CSUN, going to a PhD program next year.
Good morning, everyone. I am Giovanni Granados, and I'm introducing my dear friend Brianna. She did her undergrad here at CSUN. She did supplies and experiment. We took a few classes together, and we worked together in the PUMP research program, which Norman was just telling us about. I stayed here for my master's, but she moved on to Duke, and I think she's finishing up this spring, right? And she's going to tell you guys about her experience.
Okay, hi, Brianna. Ivana said. My last name's changing at the moment, so you'll see Anna right in this area. So I'm here to talk to you guys about biostatistics and tell you what it is and what it's about, all that nitty-gritty. But before I talk about that, I really want to tell you guys about my experience just doing math, going to school. Not because I want to tell you my whole life story, but because I do think it's important, because I know school is hard, and I know life is hard, and I'm really proud of where I'm at, but this in no way was just given to me. I wasn't easy, I'm not this genius, that's not how I got there, and I know life happens, and making this it was really kind of nerve-wracking, because half of the story, Helena and Dr. Horn know, but this other half of the story, while I'm at Duke, not very many people know, just my family, Giovanni, just the people that have been super close to me, and it's really fresh, so sometimes I get a little emotional about it, so I'm sorry if that happens. But yeah, so here we go. So I'm originally from the San Fernando Valley, grew up in Pacoima, Sylmar, all that area, which, if you guys know the valley, it's kind of low income and not the best place to really be. And I was lucky that I had my family to kind of guide me in the right direction, stay away from all the gang violence and all that type of stuff. Because growing up in that area, you kind of people expect you to not go anywhere, not go to school. And I didn't really know that as a kid, but as I got older, as a teenager, I did really kind of see it. And college wasn't this thing that you do in my family. My mom was born here, but my grandma immigrated with her when she was a teenager and pregnant. My dad was born in Mexico, and he came over here when he was 8. So she was lucky enough to actually go to college, and she's a teacher now. And I have one other aunt who also went here at CSUN. My mom went to UCLA to study sociology, and she did her credentials here. So CSUN's kind of a thing, I guess, for us. So, college is just not one of those things that we know about. And so that was that, but I grew up being the oldest in my family. I have 2 younger brothers and 10 cousins, probably more. And they're all really close to me. They're in my world growing up. So growing up, I wanted to make sure that I was their role model, so I knew that I did want to go to college. But, didn't really know much about it, but I still went. So I applied here at CSUN and I got in. And I was also taking courses at Pierce while I was at CSUN. And, I was a good student. I really, I was kind of one of those, not a snob, but totally OCD, right? If I got a B, one of those people really annoying. But, I was I'm doing this for my cousins. I really don't want them to get into those gangs, And I was just so focused on that, and I was in the teaching program because that's what I knew. you know, as the years passed by, I started joining these programs at CSUN, like SITE. In that program, I got to build like an earthquake seismometer and go to Caltech and like learn about all that stuff. And that was the first time I was like, oh, like you can do things with math. Okay, this is kind of cool. So I'm like, ooh, this is fun, whatever. But I still wanted to be a teacher because I was like, this is what I'm gonna do. So very OCD about having a plan. So that was that, and then, you know, okay, there's this other program called PUMP that Helena was in charge of, and that program was really focused on helping students prepare for the harder math courses, and also teaching us about grad school. And I was like, grad school, what's that, you know? But, so I decided to apply, and I got accepted, and I was like, cool, yay, you know, whatever. And I decided, whatever, and then, so a week into that program, this is like the second year in college, going into the third year, I find out I'm pregnant. And, you know, I was 19 at the time, 19, so it was like a kid taking care of a kid, and, but I just felt in that moment like I had failed. I had become a statistic, growing up in poverty, being Hispanic, being a teenager, I was pregnant. And I felt like I failed, like you're Catholic, that's just not what you do. And like, I could no longer be the role model for my cousins, for my brothers. So I just felt defeated, and yeah, I even considered like, I'm just not gonna do this pump program because I'm just taking up space. What's the point of even going? If I don't know if I'm gonna even finish undergrad, why should I even start thinking of a grad school? So that was that, but you know, like, yeah, I'm gonna just do it, you know. And so I did it, and like honestly, I had no idea what was going on in there. Like it was a bunch of math, and like I was learning, but my head was somewhere else, like trying to prepare, like, oh, I need a crib, I need this, I need that. So that was that, and I was still worried, like this is just not for me, I can't do it, I just can't. But one of the like big turning points of that is we had guest speakers tell us about their experiences, and there was one speaker who actually had her child at the age of 18, and she was in Santa Barbara getting ready to finish her PhD. And that was the first time I was like, oh, this is, maybe it is possible. Maybe I can do it. And so I talked to her after her presentation, and it was kind of like the flip, like the light bulb going off, like, okay, I can do this. Let's just keep going. And so after that, I was really motivated, and it just really brought up my confidence, like, I want a PhD in math, I'm gonna do this, let's go. And so, you know, time passed, still pregnant, getting bigger, and I was talking to like certain professors about what I wanted to do and my interest in like doing a PhD. And before this, you know, school was my life, and I was one of those really good students where professors like wanted to get to know me. And suddenly I felt like nobody was taking me seriously because I was telling them that I was pregnant, that I had a big old belly, and like I had to take a semester off. And that was just in such a like, you know, they probably didn't do it on purpose, but I was just so sensitive in that moment. And okay, like I was just a slap in the face, and like suddenly all these heroes were just like, it was kind of like my world was crashing down. But whatever, I was like, okay, just keep going, keep going. Finally had my son in January of 2013, and I was really dumb, and I was like, no, I have to prove them wrong. I ended up going to class 3 days after I had my son. Yes, 3 days after I had my son. Ooh, spilling milk everywhere, probably too much information, but to that point. And I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't taking care of my son. There was just so much stress. My son ended up with jaundice, and like I was just having, you know, breastfeeding issues, stuff that, you know, like women issues. And so that was really hard, and I could not stay awake in my classes. And I'm like, why did I do this? And they had already passed the deadline for like dropping without the F or whatever, the W. So I was like, shoot, you know, I messed up. Like, here you go, I failed again. And my son ended up getting a fever before he was 3 months. So he ended up in the NICU for 3 weeks, and it was at that point I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. And I told my mom, like, I need to quit. I'm sorry, like, I can't leave, but I know I'm going to get a straight an F, you know. But, you know, somehow I talked to the doctor, and they were able to get me a medical leave, so that worked out. And there was no penalty for that. I didn't have to pay for it, thank goodness. But yeah, and I didn't notice at the time, but I was struggling with postpartum depression, and like, I wanted to be like, what's, you know, in like culture, it's just like depression, it's not a thing. So I didn't know what it was, and I just didn't get it treated, and I just kind of kept doing my own thing. So whatever. And like I was still mad, like super angry about like all these experiences with like people telling me I'm not taking me seriously. So in the summer, I went back to take courses here, didn't do so hot, so of course I felt like a failure again because I was so used to getting my A's, but it's okay, whatever. Kept going. And yeah, so then I joined another program that Elena was in charge of doing research, and I was doing like plant modeling. I'm not really into plants, but you know, it was a good learning experience, and I was just doing things I had no idea you could even do. And what I really learned from that is just learning what I like and what I don't like. I really liked programming. I really like seeing like really colorful pictures on the computer. Maybe I don't know what's going on like all the time, but I liked it. And also I had an amazing advisor, like somebody to just guide me and tell me what's going on with math, but also tell me that it's okay. If you don't know what you're doing, it's okay. You have a plan, what you're gonna do next, you don't, that's okay too. Like, and in this moment, I still wasn't sure, like, do I even want a PhD in math? Do I really like research? I don't know, you know? And he was just there to tell me it's okay. And he knew that I always wanted to be a teacher because I got, especially after this whole pregnancy, like I wanted to be able to tell these kids that were also growing up in these low-income areas that, no, you can do it, you just have to keep going. So I still really had my heart set on teaching, especially after all those experiences. Like, I just didn't want to deal with this, you know, everything of that. So whatever, like, time's passing, I'm doing more research projects. I'm doing another one with like habitats and modeling and equilibrium, stuff like that. And that like led me, you know, I got an internship at Caltech, and I didn't even know what Caltech was until people were like, oh, Caltech, you know? And so I was like, okay. And yeah, and I was doing like presentations at schools that I didn't even know were there. You know, so I was doing that, and that was great. And then Elena sent me over to Arizona to a conference where I got to like talk to grad schools and apply and get like free applications for that. And so I went to that, and like during that, I didn't know I was going through this, but I was having a depressive episode, and I was just like, no, why am I going there? Not here, like I don't want to do math anymore. I'm just so tired of it. And you know, whatever. And I was like still being respectful, like doing the thing you're supposed to do at conferences. But in my head, I was just like, do this, why am I here? But I talked to like some lady at Duke. I didn't know anything about Duke. And she was like super nice, and she was like, "You're gonna apply, right?" Sure, I'll apply, whatever. And like, I don't want to disappoint her because she was so nice. And so yeah, that was the only school I applied to from that. And then like applications, it was time for me to do it, and all I did was apply to teaching programs. I was like, this is it, I'm gonna teach. I can't really go far away. I need to stay here in LA, and like UCLA is a dream school since I was like 5, because my mom and whatever. So I was like, I can get in there if I do teaching. I think I can. So I did, and like, you know, I got in, and I got into all the schools I applied to except for one. Most of them with scholarships, and I was like ready. I was so excited. I told UCLA, I'm coming, you know. And like, I brought my UCLA shirt, ready to go. And like, while this was happening, I kept getting emails from Duke, like, come to our visit day. I'm like, no, I'm going to UCLA. I love LA. And so they like increased my travel money to go. So I was like, okay, fine. So I go, and like, it's a completely different culture over there. It's weird, because you think every place is like Los Angeles. Oh, and I didn't know anything about North Carolina at the time, but now I do. And if I had known that, I don't know if I'd be over there right now. But yeah, so I went, and I was like, oh, okay, this is weird. I don't think, you know, and I went with my boyfriend at the time, and my son's father, and we were there, and like, the people were just really nice. And like, in that time, it was more important for me that people were asking about my son and about my life, and then like, tell me about your GPA, tell me what you know about math. Because I didn't care about that stuff at that time. And they were just, I felt so welcomed, like, and I was asking questions like, so what happens if your students are struggling? What are you doing about that? And I was really satisfied with the answers they were giving me, and I just felt so welcome. And so I was like, oh my God, I need to do this. And that's when I realized, like, oh my God, Duke, it's a thing. And so I was like, I can't say no to this. Like, if I'm going to be a teacher, I can do that when I come back, but let me just try this. And I mean, it was hard because I'm like, how am I going to do it with like a 2-year, I think it was 2 at the time, and like my husband who works here. But I mean, somehow it all worked out, you know. And like the last possible day that I could change my mind, I told UCLA, I'm sorry, but I need to go do this. And yeah, so I, you know, got into Duke, and here I am at Duke right now. And like, I felt like, oh my God, I did it. I proved these people wrong. But, and you know, So that was that. I'm so excited to go, and I'm like moving over there. And so that's the part of the story. And Elena and Dr. Horn know. And like I'd like to say like that's it, like oh that was my fairy tale ending. But no, like it's not a movie, and it kind of just keeps on going. So here, okay, so now here I am at Duke, and I moved there with my husband and my son, and it's just completely weird, like looking around, like where's the diversity? Like I'm the only brown person here, and it really messes with your head. You feel like I felt like whenever somebody was staring at me, I was some exotic creature, and I didn't know what they were thinking in their head, but I felt like they're probably wondering if I'm legal. They're probably wondering how I got here, why I'm here, and that just totally messed with my head. And on top of that, I was trying to be like the perfect mom, the perfect wife, the perfect student. I was going to sleep at like 4 a.m. and waking up at 6 a.m. And I was still not doing amazing. I just kept trying to compare myself to all these people there who already had like master's degrees and other stuff. And like I was the only Hispanic person in the program. So I'm pretty sure I'm the only Hispanic person that a lot of those people have ever talked to. And I felt like I had to prove them like, oh, I'm not lazy. It's just really bad, but that's how it felt. And in addition to that, it was like the worst time for me to move over there because that summer going there, my cousin, like again, my cousins are my world, had a suicide attempt. And I was the last one to see her, so because I had all that guilt. My brother, she was 13 at the time, my brother, 13, just been diagnosed with depression, going on medication. And my first cousin that I had 5 years younger than me, 16 at the time, having a baby. And so with that, I'm like panicking, like, oh my God, this is the worst time for me to be over here. So my foot was like over there while I'm trying to do all this. And it just completely broke me. I was driving to school just crying, not knowing why, sitting in the parking lot with so much anxiety, not knowing I can't get out of here, I just can't do this. And like, you know, I told my family, like, this is what's happening. I went to a psychiatrist, they've given me medication because it's gotten this bad. And that was that. And, you know, I told my family, like, do this, I'm gonna quit. I told Giovanni I'm gonna quit, told my mom I'm gonna quit. And, you know, my family was supportive. We just want you to be healthy, come back, you know, just come back. It's okay, you try it, you're still like the role model. So I was like, okay. And it was like, that was gonna happen. And then like the same day, one of these nights, I told my mom, she sends me this, or actually I talked to Giovanni first, she texted me like, told Elena. No! Like, I have to tell her. And she's like, yeah. And then like a few minutes later, my mom texted me like this giant long thing, like, okay, when you were telling me and your father that you wanted to go to Duke and we were begging you, no, you're going to UCLA because that's your dream school, you told us that this was like the most sure thing that you've ever been in, you know, blah, blah. Basically telling me like, snap, like go and finish your thing. If you're gonna leave, then it's because you're gonna get kicked out, not because you're scared of getting kicked out. It's like, okay, yeah, and like I was already failing my classes at that point. I was failing classes that I had already taken here at CSUN. It was that bad. Like I couldn't get up in the morning. I couldn't take care of myself, I couldn't take care of my son, I couldn't take care of it. It was bad. So, you know, I talked to my advisor and I was so much in disbelief because they were so supportive. I actually, the class that I was failing, that teacher, I went to her office because I got like a 50-something% in the class I already took, and she told me that she went through the exact same thing in grad school with her kids. She had depression too, and she made it through, and she was just so supportive. And then one of the other people in like the background of the program told me that he too was struggling with depression. And like, it was just like, wow, like I'm not alone in this. Like maybe there is something here that I can do. And my advisor was like, you know what, you just do what you gotta do. If it takes you longer, that's fine, but we're gonna do everything that we can, you know. And like, it was so supportive, and you know, I made it. I finally finished that semester without emailing Elena that I was gonna quit, you know. And I made it, and got my grades back up. Went back home for Christmas, and like, I was nice. Came back and finished my second semester. My grades were fine, you know. And I was like, oh, this is great. Like things are getting back on their get-go and like good. Then I went back here in LA, stuffed my face with In-N-Out, and yeah, like I got married that summer, and like my brother was doing great, my cousins were doing great, my new niece was doing great. Like everything was finally okay. And so whatever, end of the summer, I go back to school, so first another semester, second year, I have to take my qualifying exam, take my qualifying exam, failed all of it. All of it, not just little sections of it, but all of it. And I just like, what am I doing here? Why? Like, take me back to the beach, take me back to In-N-Out, take me back to good, real food, you know? And like, it was just like the whole first year happening over again, me falling into that downward spiral, me getting ready to tell everybody that I'm gonna quit. Like, I'm so tired of this, I can't do this. Like, I'm not healthy. And yeah, and then again, you know, my advisor calmed me down, told me that she tutored me every single week before the qualifying exam, which I would take this January. And so that was happening, and I was finally, like, my grades were okay, feeling better, you know. And then November came, and you know, November came, and school, like being in North Carolina, completely different from California, like the whole election things, and I'm not gonna get political, but it was really hard being in a completely different world, especially not knowing like what's gonna happen to my family, and is my family gonna get deported? I don't know, and I can't be there to like hang out with them. And it wasn't just me, it was my husband who was dealing with this, and like that was just heartbreaking. So again, like everything was just going wrong, and whatever, you know. And I didn't get to go home that Christmas because I needed to study for the fall, and you know, that was that. And I did take the fall, January 6th, my husband's birthday, couldn't have spent time with him, and I passed, thank goodness, I passed. And that was just like the best feeling in the world, you know, that I was able to do it with all this crap happening. And so now I'm here, and the only thing I need to do to graduate is finish my master's project. And I think I can do it. So that's my story. And I'm telling you because there's 3 things that I want you to take away from it. One is that you really want to join those programs, research programs, because you might not understand everything that's going on, but they expose you to so many different types of people, and those people are going to be the people that are supporting you throughout the way. That, and 2, you definitely, continuing on to that, want to find those people that want you to do well, that want to support you. And 3, just accepting that life happens. Life happens. And it's not easy, but it's going to be okay. So that's kind of my spiel. I'm sorry, that was really long. But that's me, and that's how now I'm here today, hoping to graduate this May. So we'll see. And so now that that's out of the way, maybe we can talk about biostatistics, which you guys are here for. Okay, so biostatistics. So this is what we're going to talk about today. First, let me tell you guys what biostatistics is, what type of career options you can have from it. My experience at my internship right down the street here at Medtronic Diabetes, my master's project, and the program at Duke. So first of all, what is biostatistics? You guys can read that. Basically, it's statistics, but with an emphasis on biology and medical areas. But what does that really mean? The best way to talk about it is through an example. So clinical trials, you know, doctors, scientists, whatever, trying to figure out, like, does a drug work? Is it better than another drug? Is it safe? Stuff like that. When that whole process happens, the researchers have a budget. They have a time limit. The biostatistician's job is to work with that investigator to figure out, okay, you need this much power in your project. Let me tell you how many people you need, like while saving you the most money. And let me tell you where you should get your samples from. And let me make sure that your samples are, you know, non-biased and all that stuff. And so biostatisticians do that. And then as the clinical trials are going on, after the data has been collected, it's the biostatistician's job to talk to the investigator, say, okay, so what again was your goal? And let me make a plan for you, what type of tests we're going to use to figure out how we're going to, you know, solve our hypothesis or whatever. And so that's our job. And then in addition to just dealing with the ethical issues of like data privacy and all that stuff, and yeah, it's just a lot of communication. So that's what we do, is making those statistical plans, sending them out, and most importantly, knowing how to interpret your results and talk to the investigator in plain English. None of this like fancy p-value math stuff that they have no idea whatever that is. And so that's that. And in addition to like clinical trials, you can also be working with agricultural stuff, you can work with like healthcare, you can expand into a lot of different things. And as of 2016, according to Forbes, master's degree in biostats is like the best thing ever. So something to think about if you are thinking about going into biostats. So with that, so some of the career options I said, they like expand, it's not just medical stuff. You could easily expand into regular statistics if you wanted to work for a company. Something that I'm actually really interested in is data science. So you can expand into that. You could be working at Twitter. One of the classes I'm taking right now, I absolutely love this class. It's not biostats, it's called computational social science. And in that class, I'm learning how to like scrape Twitter data and just do stuff with it. So I really like that class, and that's kind of more data science. And another thing, you can go into bioinformatics, which is like biostatistics, but just with a lot more data, and it's usually related to genetics and stuff like that. And then you can go into healthcare and programming. So my experience at Medtronic Diabetes, my program at Duke actually requires like practical experience, so they recommend that we get an internship over the summer. And I was lucky enough to work here, I think it's that way, at Medtronic. And I actually I was in the biostatistics and bioinformatics department, but I wasn't a biostatistician, I was a bioinformatics intern. And so what does that mean? That meant my job consisted a lot of validating data, making sure that the results that they had were the same, and using SQL and just R programming to verify that, and also getting to know like the server, like where do I get this data from, where do I get that data from. A lot of training with like ethical issues and knowing how the FDA works, stuff like that. And I did get to work with the other biostatistician intern there who actually did their biostat masters at UCLA. And so we together worked on a project, and we were trying to correlate blood sugar levels with different like characteristics within people to see if we could predict what their levels would be. And so that was really cool, and she taught me a lot of things about biostats that I didn't know. So that was that. What else did I do? Just presenting my results, talking to people, stuff like that, learning about diabetes. I actually got to wear one of the pumps, and I was really excited about that because my brother wears a pump because he has diabetes. So my program, probably different than if you guys ever want to apply to, your whatever program, but just an outline, just maybe get you guys a feel for it. So the first 2 years were the basics, learning the theory behind the statistical tests and like figuring out when to use the t-test, when to use chi-square, all that stuff. So more just basic stuff. And also learning how to use R and how to use SAS, and also having a career class. And I really like this class because I'm really lucky that Duke has this because I know nothing about jobs. Like my family doesn't do fancy jobs. We never needed a resume for anything. And so this was like another thing that was totally like sucks being at Duke. There were people complaining about this class because they already knew how to write a resume because they already had parents that had like PhDs and blah blah blah. And I'm just there like, what's a resume? What's a CV? Stuff like that. But yeah, I was really lucky that this program had that. And then that, and then during the summer go to an internship. And the second year is kind of like a fun thing where you get to take your elective and start working on your master's project. And so these are some of the electives that we get to choose from. So from these, I'm taking the stats and genetics right now. That's really cool. And I also did survival analysis, and that's basically looking at like drugs and or some stuff like that, and kind of mapping like when each person dies or when they have a heart attack and seeing the trend. So that class is really cool and probably going to be really helpful for clinical trial stuff. And then I also did general linear models, which is kind of just learning. It was just more of a general picture of everything in the class. And in addition to that, I was also taking the computational social science class. That one's going pretty well. And then I'm also working on my master's project right now. And my master's project is called Race-Specific Association of the metabolites with adverse events among patients with coronary artery disease. That sounds really fancy, but it's not. Basically, so the goal of this is to figure out like why different races have different rates of heart disease. We've noticed that heart disease occurs more in certain races than others. And the way that I have to approach this problem is I need to figure out how to stratify my data by race, what I want to do with missing values, what I want to do with values that just are like outliers that just don't seem right. I have to figure out that, and then I need to look at my data and use principal component analysis, which is a type of unsupervised learning. Basically what that means is like, you know how usually you have like an X and a Y? So I don't have the Y, work with the Y, the output. I have to only look at the X values and figure out like how they kind of like cluster together. And like I'm working with 62 different metabolites, and I have to like, PCA is gonna combine those, like, and just tell me like, you don't need all 60 of them, you only need like 12 or whatever. So that's how I'm gonna approach that, and kind of that's what the step I'm at right now. But then after that, I have to take those metabolites and characteristics and merge the data with the actual races and figure out, look at their survival curves, figure out if there is a difference and what that trend is. So that's what I'm doing right now. Yeah, that's kind of what's going on. And thank you for listening. And if you have questions, you can email me.
Can you give a non-medical person the definition of the word metabolites and give some examples that I would have heard of?
Okay, so I can't even tell you the actual definition of metabolites. No biology background aside from like some bioclass. So basically, it's a chemical in your body. So some of the metabolites in the project that we're working with, like glucose and just stuff I can't pronounce. I mean, eventually I'm gonna have to figure out what those things are to know, like, do they actually matter? Because like with biostatistics, you don't need to be an expert in biology, which is great for me. I just know how to talk about them. Yeah.
10,000 years ago, when I was an undergraduate at UC, there was the 100 level course in statistics, and there was a 300 level course, and there was a year-long sequence of a 400 level course for seniors in statistics, where I remember the instructor saying to us about 3/4 of the way through the year, he said, okay, what we're doing now is what you're doing about week 4 of elementary statistics, because we had finally got to Z-score. It was all building up the machinery to get there. So I'm just wondering if you had the experience when you were here at Northridge of taking the undergraduate, the 100 level course in statistics, or the senior level course in statistics, and then when you got to do, did they say, oh, it's great that you have this, or did they say, forget about all that stuff, we're really going to show you what's going on?
So I didn't take a 100 level class here, but I did take one at Pierce. It was statistics with social sciences. And like that class actually took while I was still in high school, and so I didn't really know what happening. And then here I did take, I don't remember the numbers, but I had yes, took one of the stats courses. But this is the time when I was having my depressive, like my episode. Yeah, I didn't know what was going on. I was just trying to get to pass. I wasn't even trying to learn. And going to Duke, they assumed that I knew all of that, and they kind of talked about it as if we already knew it. And that actually, the program's fairly new. It's only, mine year is year 5. So, I mean, they're still working on it. And my cohort actually told them, like, I know you guys are assuming this stuff, but we don't really know everything. We kind of heard the name, but we don't know why we're doing it. So, like, working on that, they're actually trying to help us break it down a little more.
I have kind of a controversial question. For your research on coronary artery disease, you see differences among the races. Do you know if that's due to cultural differences or genetic?
I don't know. Yeah, so there's been research, like I have to look at articles that have been written, and doesn't really go into that detail. I don't know, I'm sure I'm going to have to look into that before I present my project. But yeah, those kind of the baby steps. No, I'm using R and SAS, and I'm trying to like doing MATLAB and Code for SQL. But usually, I really like R. Well, thank you guys.
Let me say that one of the reasons we have this project for undergraduates is in North Region, and now we are working with the community colleges, is that we, of course, it's clear to everybody, we wanted to bring as much as possible community college students to transfer to Parkview University and be a math major. And then, after being a math major, after graduating, as much as possible, go to graduate school, and then really engage in a deep and significant research project, which is the PhD dissertation or the master dissertation. Several students, when they are thinking if they are going into mathematics or not, go through some of the questions Brianna mentioned here. Can I do that? Am I cut out for that? Do I have the talent for that? Do I have my life is something that will help me to get this? I have all these problems. I have to overcome these and that difficulties. I am not so sure about this. And another one is the only job I can get is as a teacher, or can I get other type of jobs? So this was the purpose of some of the talks today, that you see applications of mathematics in other areas and find out that there are other jobs for mathematical career other than just teaching, right? Whoever has that passion for teaching, whoever wants to fulfill themselves by teaching, okay, get a job in academia or in a secondary school. But there are several options out there for students who would not like to be teach, but still love mathematics, still love to do research in mathematics, still love to learn more mathematics and find out and discover what can be done with mathematics. And as she mentioned before there, I want to emphasize that very promising career nowadays is with a number of opportunities is in statistics and especially biostatistics. So we can have a short break now, but we will come back with an undergraduate panel where we're going to have 4 students that 2 of them went through this program that we run here at the CSUs and are about to start a PhD program. And the 2 others that are still in community college. But they all had the experience that Brianna already mentioned. I don't know, I want to call your attention first that we went to a conference in Arizona. Okay, her year was in Arizona, other years are in Alabama, other years are in St. Louis, Missouri, other years they. That conference goes all over the country. It's called Field of Dreams. I recommend this conference to every student here. It's a conference where you go and find out all these opportunities for mathematics majors. And how can you go to this conference? You cannot just go and apply. You need to have a faculty that nominates you to go to that conference. And how that faculty can nominate? It's not every faculty that can nominate students to go to that conference. The faculty must be a mentor in what we call the Math Alliance. So whoever is faculty here, and if not faculty, if you're a student, talk to your favorite professor in your college to become a mentor in what is mathalliance.org. You go there, how to become a mentor. The faculty fills some form, become a mentor, and then that faculty can nominate the students to attend this conference Field of Dreams, which is every year in November in different parts of the country. And the goal of this Math Alliance is really to create this community of scholars and faculty. You saw from her talk, and I'm talking now specifically to students, how she needed mentors to get where she is now. And we all needed that. So in this alliance, faculty work together as mentors. Even if one is there in Michigan, another is in Florida, another is in Alabama, electronically, nowadays, we can all work together, right? So there is this community of mentors, the community of students, and they are very, very interested in bringing community college to this alliance, because these alliances started with PhD institutions, and then now they have the master institutions like the CSUs. And last week I was in a conference in Maryland, and when I mentioned that we would have this conference today here, they said, make sure that you announce the alliance there, because our next step is to bring the community colleges to the alliance. So we already took community college students that I nominated because they are in the project we run here at CSUN. But there were not so many community college students last year, correct? So we will be very happy. I serve on the board of this alliance. We will be very happy if after this meeting today, if we have here, let's say 30 faculty, maybe 15 sign up to become a mentor. And then next year to come back to talk about, and then another 15. Because this is the time that the alliance is opening to community colleges. Another thing that I want to say, unfortunately she could not come, our external evaluator for NSF, but that's why we're taking, because she will see everything through the video. We intended to involve the AMATEC in this project that we're starting of mathematical research in community colleges. And she even said that she would be happy to facilitate this for us. And at the conference I was last week, there were 3 representatives from community colleges, with one from the AMAC, I already spoke to her. So we are having plans for getting this idea of getting our students in community college, show them that it's possible, no matter what. That's why I invited Rihanna to give this talk here. I know she's a great speaker, and I know part of her story, I found out part of it. And we had several stories like that the students that didn't know where they could get, and they are getting there, because they had good mentors. And this is the purpose of the Alliance, and through undergraduate research, through all these programs that exist out there that are funded by the several government agencies, we're getting more students to find out that mathematical research is possible for everyone, and a career in mathematical sciences is possible for everyone. It's not only teaching, only if your heart is in doing programming or other things, like a job in a company, like she has a internship in the mechatronics. There are many possibilities. So we will continue in this vein in the panel, because all these, I think, is much better said by the students, like Rihanna did, that now she's finished her master, and the other undergraduate students that we have. So I just wanted to make a little announcement about the mathsalliance.org. Go there, read all about what the Math Alliance is doing, and if you feel inspired with faculty, sign up to the mentor. And if you're a student, if you would like to participate in all that, ask your favorite professor to become a mentor as needed. Okay, so we'll wait